Hi everyone and welcome to Entrepreneurs Playing Games. My name is Amandine Flachs and today we're here for the episode number 6 with our guest Franz-Josef who is the
Hi everybody.
Who is the CEO and co-founder of Tick. Is it Tick or Tick.Done?
Oh, we can do it Tick.Done, yeah.
Tick.Done. Perfect. So we're going to talk about your startup in a minute, but before we get started, I would like to invite everyone to be involved in the discussion. The reason why we are live and not recorded is for you to be able to ask your own question, ask anything, or just let us know what you think. So we are right now live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitch. So feel free to just join the discussion and we'll be able to monitor what you're saying, so we'll be able to answer anything, anytime. I do have lots of questions though, so be sure to ask your question because otherwise I'll continue asking mine and I have a lot to ask.
There are a lot of notes down there.
Yeah, well, I do lots of research beforehand, like making sure I can spy on you to make sure I understand and I have a lot to ask about.
Yeah, there's a lot out there as well.
And also, if you have to go because it's Saturday morning and everyone has an agenda, if you have to leave sometime, the video of this episode will be available on YouTube in the coming days. So keep an eye on social media and we'll be keeping you posted really soon. So, I don't know if you already are familiar with the concept. The idea is we are going to first talk about your startup and better understand your journey. Yeah. And then we'll be playing some video games. So for today, you suggested a video game and I made it happen. So hopefully it will work without any trouble because I had some trouble in the past days with this game. But it has some nostalgic vibes, especially for you. So that's going to be quite fun.
I used to be a huge gamer, yeah.
Yeah? Great, that will be perfect. Please be nice with me because that's a game I haven't played much, so yeah.
Yeah, I don't get around playing games a lot anymore, so I'm really looking forward
it's
to
just hard, yeah.
reliving my childhood.
Great, well, I look forward to that. And the last part will be more about you as an entrepreneur, your own personal journey, and potential challenges you've been facing. So that's about it for the agenda of today. What about we get started, if that sounds good for you? Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Great.
Looking forward to it.
You are the CEO and co-founder of Tick.Done. So Tick.Done is a micro video platform that is made for instant knowledge sharing, right? So what does this mean and what are you working on?
Definitely. So Tick.Done was founded as part of a mission-driven startup incubator program called Zinc VC. And basically what Zinc does is that they take 50 individuals without an idea and without a team, put them in a room and say, found businesses which have a social impact and solve big social issues. And during this program, I met my two co-founders, Cedric and Jessica, and together we came up with a problem field we wanted to solve. And that was basically that in the field of education, one of the biggest discriminators today is not that people do not have access to knowledge. So it used to be money. It used to be that people couldn't afford knowledge or education. Now the biggest discriminator is just simply time. So not everybody can sit down on a Saturday and watch a 1.5 hour live stream on entrepreneurship in order to gain the valuable knowledge they need in order to succeed with entrepreneurship. A lot of people, they actually have real jobs, they have families, they have kids, or maybe they just don't know how to access information, which means that all the goodies which are hidden behind live streams, behind university course books, Coursera courses, blog posts, YouTube videos, they can't access them because they simply don't have the time to do so. So what we set out to do was build a just-in-time learning platform. How can you access relevant knowledge instantly? And that's how we came up with Tick.Done. So it's best described just as a mix of Snapchat stories and how-to videos, which explain you how to perform a task in 30 seconds. And the idea is that instead of accruing this large inventory of knowledge, which decays over time. The same way in logistics, we don't have large inventories anymore because they fall apart. Now you can access 5 times a day, 30 seconds of knowledge and then upskill as you go.
So also you are yourself trying some of these videos in your own videos. So I came across a few of them on, I think it was on LinkedIn. I don't know if you have.
Yeah, it's great. It's great social media content. So we just saw that for creators, it's great feedback. We really enjoyed their videos, so we were testing them anyways in our office. So we just decided that people on our platform who create should also be able to see that we are actually using their videos. So we just made it a team kind of like fun exercise we do on a Friday afternoon where somebody uploads like a cocktail recipe, we make those cocktails, we send a video.
So apart from yourself and your team, who is your target audience? Who are you trying to reach? Because you mentioned content creators that will be sharing on all the platforms like Instagram or else. But who is your target audience right now?
Yeah. So our target audience is quite broad, because what we're doing right now is we're still validating the proposition. Because what happened basically last year, like we've only been operating for 1.5 years, but what happened last year is that Google announced that stories will now be searchable within Google search. And that was a big opportunity for us, because we were just tinkering around with this idea, and all of a sudden had the reason why right now was the perfect timing for this idea to launch. Generally speaking, in startups, there's only two things which matter, which is why you and why now. So why us was pretty clear, because we'll go into that later when we talk about the founding team, but we have a pretty stellar team. Why now was because stories were finally mass marketable and searchable in Google. So we were the first ones to actually create how-to stories which you can search in Google. Like a lot of our stories are number one on Google search results. And we also are actually partnering with Google now as well on the creation of these kind of like stories which you can find in Google search results. So the audience itself is quite broad. In terms of creators, what we see is that the classical creator for us is somebody who's not particularly successful yet on platforms such as YouTube, Instagram, and other video outlets particularly, because what happens is that these platforms are like very largely personality driven, which means that you need to have like a person like Amandine who's like very charismatic and explains the content really well, but it's less than about the information they actually provide. So you have like 10-minute videos which are all about like the person's personality, and then you have like 30 seconds of wisdom in there. And
you're following the person, you're not following the person because they're sharing this type of knowledge, but you're following the person and literally whatever they're posting about.
Exactly, And that's a direct result of like the business model. So YouTube encourages you to create videos which are longer than 10 minutes, and YouTube encourages you to find subscribers, etc. Because they really want to increase watch sessions, so they show you more of your videos afterwards. What we're targeting is the other side of that market. So the other side where people might not be interested in like sharing their personality, etc., because that's like also very emotionally intense to keep this high energy up, which is why a lot of creators experience burnout. For us, it's all about the knowledge. For us, it's all about like the information you can share, the contribution you can make to this large knowledge bank. And the interesting part is that we'll soon be able to translate these stories as well, which means we'll also be able to actually access new audiences through our content, which is very exciting.
It is indeed, that's actually quite complete and a complete different offer from what is already out there. I also saw that you launched recently Tick for Brands, and I was wondering, what can you tell us about that? Because it's a different type of audience, right? So the platform itself, it's still for consumer, but you also have this offer for brands, which is another audience.
Yeah. So basically, what we've done, like just to give you like a rough time frame on like where we are right now in our journey, is that we launched on the 26th of February. So it's like only been around 3 to 4 months now that we've been in the market.
Really new.
Very new, very, very new. We launched on Product Hunt, on the App Store as well, immediately got featured by Apple as well. So we've seen like growth with like several thousands of users within like the first few weeks, which was extremely exciting. And some of them, they search within the app, and we actually like track what people search in the app in order to determine like what kind of content is currently missing in the app, what kind of content could we provide better. And what we saw is that a lot of these queries were related to products, were related to brands, which makes a lot of sense because a lot of brands actually, a lot of how-to queries are about like how to use your new Fender amplifier for your guitar, which I see over there, how to set up like your live streaming software. So what we decided then to do is just basically like we have an in-house creation team talking to these brands which are frequently searched on our platform and asking them like if they are interested in posting content on our platform, and if we can provide that service to them, we can educate the audience about the kind of content which can be on the platform. It all has to be how-to focused, so there's no advertising on the platform now. Like this content has to improve the viewing experience, which is something we're really excited about.
So it's really
and
about
it just
the content
opens up a whole new category on our platform, which is product related, which is already like a massive thing on our platform anyways.
So just to better understand your revenue model, you have this kind of new category on the platform that is about the branded content, which I guess, I definitely get that it's so useful because right now you go to the website brand and you're not sure where to go to look for information. You might ask for the support, but look, you generally go on YouTube and you look for information on how to make this work, right? So I definitely get the importance of that. So in terms of the revenue model, you have the brand aspect. You also have a way right now to monetize the platform itself, just for the consumer part, also for the other type of content.
I think one of the things which is important to say about our platform is that because there is this massive timing opportunity of dominating the field of stories within Google search, we deprioritized monetization compared to user growth in the beginning, and that's something which we deliberately are doing, and it's very uncommon for like a European startup to do, because most European startups, because of the way the VC scene here is shaped, because of the way the investment scene prefers like safe bets rather than like breakout companies in the UK, but on Europe in general, a lot of companies are forced to monetize very early rather than grow their business, expand their market. And normally monetization for companies means that they will slow down, because obviously there's more friction within the onboarding of new users, which means that new users have to like enter the credit card, have to pay, have to make that purchase decision. So for us, in order to capture this opportunity, we really set out to be the first ones who grow in that space and then monetize later. That's more like an American style way of building a business, and that's also one of the reasons why Europe doesn't necessarily have kind of like a Google or a Facebook yet, because we push for monetization very early. That being said, it's always important that you have a monetization plan in place. And for us, what's really interesting is that rather than like high volume of views on the content, we have extremely high user intent, which means that if you search how to fix, let's say, again, your amplifier, then there is a good chance that all the tools which are used inside of that video, including the amplifier, are something which you will need in order to perform that task. So if you're lacking any of those tools, we can actually provide you with an option to buy those tools, to purchase those tools, and through that way, create a value for you as a user, because we enhance the viewing experience, because you don't have to go on to Google and search where can I find this tool. But we also make sure that we don't interrupt you for ads, because that's a very invasive kind of like way of monetizing a platform. And the other opportunity, of course, is then also like sponsor content. But again, this kind of content has to be actually solving a problem for the user. So if brands want to promote their version of a story and their version of how to perform a task over like a user-generated version, there will be an option later to do that so as well, in order to make sure that the brand has some sort of like control over how their products are used.
Sure, which would make sense once you have lots of people actively using the platform. You might want to push your own official video, kind of.
I think a really good example is Glassdoor, because Glassdoor is a user-generated platform. Like on Glassdoor, people are posting reviews of companies, which was wildly successful, because until then it was kind of like unclear how the experience will actually be within a company. But companies itself want to be part of that conversation. So Glassdoor, their monetization strategy is that they actually allow companies to curate that page to a certain extent. So they make that page look nicer. They can like add some custom elements as well, just so people, when they visit that page, experience their company better. But ultimately the reviews are the same. So
and they also have a way of kind of validating, I think, the some of the answers, and even if it's negative or not, you can actually see if the company votes for some feedback that were not all positive. You're like, oh, that also says something about the company.
Definitely.
You also started mentioning your team earlier, and well, there is something I want to talk about, but I want to keep it for later on. I want to talk about your experience.
We have a lot of time.
We do have a lot of time. But you've been through the program Zinc, and without getting too much into detail about the program and your experience, what is the story behind the company and who you met your co-founders and the composition of the team today?
Yeah, definitely. So the story behind us, like without going too much into detail, because I guess like, if you don't have the background of what Zinc is, it's a very unreal story, and you cannot probably believe that happens. But basically, so I was part of the cohort at Zinc, and Cedric was also part of the cohort at Zinc, and Cedric and I met as part of the cohort. So Cedric is one of my co-founders. Mm-hmm. He's deeply technical. Like for the last 15 years, he's worked in especially Samsung, where he was in the innovation lab and helped like build everything from 2G, 3G apps to the back-end software, which is making your phone run every day. Mm-hmm. And he founded 2 companies already. And he has an MBA from INSEAD as well. So the way we basically described it is that he was very tech with some business. And my background is mostly in marketing and business development, but also in financial services. I worked before as well. And I also wrote my master thesis on fake news detection through natural language processing and machine learning. Mm-hmm. So I also have some background in data science and machine learning, which basically then made Cedric and me kind of like business with some tech and tech with some business, which was a quite a good match.
Great match, yeah.
But more importantly, it also just worked on a personal level. So we were like hanging out a lot, like during Zinc, because it was a high pressure environment. We would go to pub a lot as well. So like that was a really good time to like evaluate like if we could get along well, but it's also if we could work well together. And then our first co-founder, Jessica, she was our mentor. She co-founded a business previously called Blipar, which is a
big startup.
So
that's
it's
a big track record.
It was one of the first unicorn startups in the UK. It scaled from 4 founders to roughly 300 employees in 10 offices around the world. Was valued at a point in time at $1.5 billion. And she was like one of the co-founders who actually made this success happen. Like she was on the business development side of the whole program, of the whole company as CMO, which means that she was the one who like furthered and advanced the entire company in the global expansion as well. And she was our mentor. She was our advisor during the program. So like, I don't want to go too much into detail, but she was basically just feeding back every 2 weeks on like our progress. Okay. But once we found the idea of Tick.Done and validated that was something people really wanted, which is really important. Like a lot of startups don't validate early enough.
Validation is a good point,
She got really excited, and we had our first business development meetings. And one thing which I can really advise everybody to do is that, first of all, find mentors. Like we had really easy access through Zinc to like extraordinary mentors. But then you can also just write them, like just people you admire. You can just write them, and if they don't run a podcast or vlog, they're actually quite flattered if you write them. They actually
also if they write a podcast or a vlog, like
true,
they also like it.
True, definitely. I mean, like, they'll definitely like more people than you think are actually willing to like chat you up if you just write them a message. Like if you would write me after this podcast and just like write me on LinkedIn and Twitter, I'm probably happy to jump on a 10 minutes phone call, because 10 minutes don't really mean a lot to me. Like my time overall is incredibly valuable at this point because I can move my business forward. But 10 minutes won't make a big difference for me. But 10 minutes might make a big difference for somebody who's like testing out an idea or trying to validate something. Yes. I call this like a 5-minute favor, which is basically just like if a favor takes less than 5 minutes, it's probably worth doing. And a lot of successful people do that as well because they had the exact same struggles you had when they were starting out, and they are willing to help you. So what we did with Jessica as well is that after a while we built this trust with her and asked her actually to join us on business development meetings. Basically just like as an advisor, like they say the gray hair in the room, even though she does not want to like, be called gray hair.
Yeah, you're a woman, you don't I don't think that's something you want to be. Experience, mature, maybe. Experience is better.
I mean, like that's the best term that everybody's come up with so far was gray hair in the room, and it's basically just like if you're starting out and you're 2 dudes with an idea on a napkin and just like trying to go out to business development to like big companies, it's always helpful to have somebody in the back who can actually like validate, like rubber stamp what you're doing. And by having Jessica in like 2 or 3 meetings, the first thing we saw was that there was extremely large interest from these potential partners in our product, which we didn't have at the time. Like we only had like a mock-up at the time. And secondly, it just became clear that like she got very excited about what we were building, and we were really excited about it as well, and there was a lot of chemistry between the 3 of us. So she joined in as an advisory co-founder and then ultimately as a full-time co-founder as well, because she realized that basically it's very difficult to build a startup on the side. Like you can't detach yourself enough from a startup to just like be 2 days a week. Like normally it's just like a 7-day-a-week kind of thing.
It's not just about the need of the company. I think it's more about the emotional attachment. Like I've been working as an independent consultant with startups, and lots of people ask me, how many clients I have at the same time, and I'm like, no, it's not how things work. Like startups need to get a lot of things done by yesterday, and they need your full commitment to it. You can't just be like, I'm going to help you out a bit. You can, but if you're really part of the team, it's very hard to do because there is always a need for something.
Definitely, yeah. And I think that's also really important to say as well, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs who like, they don't compare how successful their business is, etc. They compare how much hours they work. Like they go like, I work like 60 hours a week, I work 70 hours a week. But that doesn't really say anything, because ultimately like every single moment I probably think about the business. Like it happens so frequently that I actually have to like meditate regularly just to like learn how to detach myself from the business, because you get very emotionally involved, which can be a good thing because it means that you always think about it. There is always a chance that you come up with something brilliant. But at the same time, it also means that you might run yourself too much into it and you lose this kind of like broader perspective of the problem you're trying to solve.
Indeed. Just want to say hi to Luke and Kies Williams. I'm so bad with name. Like it's terrible for that. Every live stream, I'm like, okay, let's try to do this. Let's try to say hi to people and hi to everyone.
Yesterday we realized that my team doesn't know how to pronounce my last name.
Oh, there
were like several team members who did not know how to pronounce my last name, and we were working together for almost a year now. So it's Schrepf.
Schrepf. Okay.
Very easy for Germans. Very difficult for everybody else because there's 7 consonants and 1 vowel.
It's not easy indeed. I didn't even try.
You should. You don't have to. But yeah, it's a common problem.
Indeed. Okay, so we'll get back a bit more into the program, and I'm sure you will have a lot more to share about, you know, the entire experience and the entire experience with working with mentors also. But what happened after, since the program? I saw that you also raised money recently. You've been through, you're now part of the Sitcam family. So what happened after during this period, and what's next now?
Definitely, So during Zinc, basically like how the program is structured, without going too much into the program, is that you have 9 months time to find a team, find an idea, and raise funding. In reality, like even though this is kind of like a pressure cooker environment, it's not as streamlined. So actually, like after 9 months, we were still in investment conversations, which means that we were moving out of the Zinc office, and then for 1 month we were just working in like cafes and different kind of spaces wherever we could find space to work, just because we were still in investment conversations.
Sure. Because that's straightforward. It's not just you leave a program and bam, you have something waiting for you next. So you have kind of this moment where
there's a transition period. And also like in hindsight, it's not as clear cut that this will be like funded, etc. Like because we were aiming for a large amount because we wanted to obviously like set ourselves up for success, which means that if you raise too little money too early, you give away too much equity, and you also might have to like start raising immediately again. And as a founder, you definitely not want to always be raising. Like fundraising is an extremely difficult and extremely intense period in time, which you try to avoid as much as possible, because basically your entire company will come to a halt if you don't
get anything done as a co-founder. You can't do anything else apart from fundraising.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just because again, like the emotional involvement is like extremely tough. So you won't validate the product as much, you won't build the product as much as long as you're fundraising, because you're constantly distracted by meetings, getting calls in, getting more, preparing investor questions, etc. So we try to like minimize that amount of effort, but it still is very all-consuming. But then fortunately by early August, Seachem signed us on for being part of the Seachem company, and we got our first investment from them. And actually what happens in VC, which is quite fascinating, is that once one person with like a name, like a big household name like Seachem, for example, signs you on, everybody else who was previously on the line, or even people who you haven't talked to yet, will immediately rush in. So while it takes maybe like 2 months, 3 months to like get the first person to sign on, actually after that it takes around 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks to actually close the entire round.
It's about having your lead investor ready to stand out for you.
Yeah, so we raised more than £500,000 in that round, and we actually raised a little bit more than we initially set out for, just because there was enough interest, and it's always good to have that initial buffer in. Then again, the legal works take so long that then ultimately to close the round, it took until like October, and then from October onwards we were off to the races, which means building out a team, preparing a go-to-market strategy, branding the entire company, because until then the brand was just a placeholder, and then ultimately launching the business. And then,
So that's what you've been up to since then. And you mentioned your go-to-market strategy. So potential users right now are using the platform that you already mentioned, so Instagram, YouTube. What is your strategy to actually bring those people to your platform? Not just the content creators, but also the users themselves to download the app and get back to it rather than look for something on YouTube, for example.
Yeah, definitely. So basically what we've done until now is that we launched a platform under the premise that the Google search integration will be a major part which will drive adoption. And what we've seen is that it's being picked up a lot, especially by individuals, but also by companies. And there are a couple of use cases popping up now from our platform, which we haven't anticipated before. So right now, 3 months, 4 months after launch, it's really about like aggregating all that information, aggregating all these learnings, and then drawing conclusions from those in terms of like, who is the target audience we want to specifically drill into versus the other ones we might not want to focus on as well. So that's the biggest point. One thing which we have as an advantage, which is like played out quite nicely, is that at the end of every story which is searched in Google is a download link to our platform. That means that every time people share our content, every time people find our content through the web, every time people embed our content into their website, there's a download link to the app, and that's a lot of organic traffic, because ultimately the best kind of marketing you can do for your platform is creating a product which is the marketing for itself. Like if you think of Snapchat, for example, like the filters they originally built with the dog ears and the tongue coming out.
That's the only platform I'm not on.
Yeah,
that's the only one.
You're obviously also not the target audience. Like the target audience is like 13 to 22 probably. But what they did so brilliantly was that people posted these images onto social media, which drove adoption for Snapchat. And they recently did the same trick again. Like the same trick worked again when they had their gender swap filter and their age filter, so the baby face filter, because immediately everybody was posting about it on not only on Snapchat but on also Twitter, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and that drove massive adoption to Snapchat as well.
And I felt really stupid when I was actually looking for such a long time to find how to get this filter on Instagram, because I don't use Snapchat at all, and I didn't even look what was the platform used. I was like, oh yeah, this filter is cool, let's try to do something, let's try to do a post on that.
I downloaded Snapchat just for that filter.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking about that.
I never used it afterwards.
I wanted to, and I'm like trying to find on Instagram, and after a while I was like, that's just stupid. It's not on the right platform. I'm not on the right platform yet, so maybe I should consider that.
Yeah. I mean, Snapchat, I think they're doing a really good job, and they're perfect at like segmenting the audience. Like the reason why you and I don't use it is just because we're not the target audience, and good platforms are actually good at doing that as well. Like they're good at like pushing away people who are not the target audience.
For the first episode a few months ago, I had Safia, who is building a physical product for men care. And she was actually saying the same thing, that it's hard sometimes to admit that someone is not in your target audience, but that's right. Sometimes you have a feedback or someone using your product in some ways, and that's okay. You shouldn't be kind of stuck on this feedback or whatever, because they're not on your target audience, and that's hard to sometimes admit.
Yeah.
But that's okay. You can't convince everyone, because that's it for them anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I gave a TED talk like a couple of years ago on the topic of marketing. I called it There Is No Luck, Only Good Marketing. And one of the key rules of marketing is actually that you need to be very polarizing. Because ultimately, if you are trying to target everybody with your product specifically, what will happen is that people will either not care at all or kind of like, give you like a feedback which is not helpful and like also generic. Like they will lie to you basically because they feel like they're part of the audience, but they can't explain why they don't like your product. So what you need to do is actually like segment a small group of people who will absolutely freaking love your product, and then push actively everybody else away, because that will make those people who will love you actually come to you more. And that actually happened with the idea for Tick.Done in the beginning as well. Like when we were validating it with partners and with investors as well, the feedback was extremely polarizing. So some investors were definitely on the spectrum of, we do not want to invest in something which is like based on a tech trend. We do not want to invest in something which could be so risky, which is not going to make revenue immediately. And other investors saw the big picture. Other investors understood that because mobile adoption is so high right now, because stories will be searchable in Google, everything will be stories in like a year or 2 years time.
Okay. That's very exciting, and I really can't wait to ask you more about some of those aspects. But just one thing, you mentioned that you noticed that some people have been using the platform in ways that weren't necessarily expected. What have they been doing on it?
Yeah, so there are some people who are uploading how-to videos which we have not expected. So I think our favorite how-to video was how to hypnotize a chicken.
Okay.
That is, I didn't even know that you can hypnotize a chicken, but if you don't know how to do so, you should check it out on Tick.Done. Apart from that, what we've seen is that there were a couple of people uploading stories which we couldn't really make sense of. So they were definitely instructional tasks, but it was not clear like what exactly the instruction would be. So we wrote them, and what we understood was that they run a catering service, and they just use our platform to explain to their employees who are like dispersed all over the place how to approach different tools, how to use different products, etc. within that catering service.
That's
which was not initially what we thought of as the platform as a use case, but it definitely like begs the question then, like, is that an area we want to move into as well?
That's indeed very interesting. Like I wouldn't have thought of these kind of use cases either.
Me neither. Yeah. No, it's great, but I mean, like, people will come up with interesting use cases for a platform, especially if your platform is based on a new format, which gives them some sort of freedom to be creative as well.
Indeed. Look at Twitch or livestream.
Yeah.
Lots of people playing video games, and here we are talking about startups and really serious stuff on Saturday mornings. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Indeed. Okay. I have lots of question. Everyone, if you do have question also, please jump into the discussion, let us know if you have further question. But I feel right now it's kind of time to play some video games. We've been chatting for half an hour, something like that. So
sounds good.
Yeah, I think it's time to take some break and play video games. So today the game we have is a game you suggested. It's Mario Kart Double Dash on GameCube. So it's a GameCube version. We are running it on an emulator today, so finger crossed everything will be working fine. It's also a game I haven't been playing much because as a kid I had the Game Boy, I had the PlayStation, I didn't have the GameCube. But the only times I played on the GameCube was actually during parties when I was a bit older, and that's it. That's just a few times here and there with alcohol. So.
Yeah, no, we have very different like starting points here.
Yeah.
I used to play almost every day when I was a kid. Like it was definitely like one of my favorite things to do. I mean, it was a very social thing, especially like GameCube games were like something you would play with friends. It was less about playing by yourself. It was more like hanging out every single day after school and playing Mario Kart.
That's a bond, right?
That's a bond you build at the time, and I think like actually it's also something which, if you think about it in hindsight, there's probably something better I could have done with my time. There's probably like something better I could have done, like build, like learn, for example, how to play the guitar, learn how to code, etc. But at the same time, it also kept me away from like, you know, starting drinking like too early. Like a lot of kids these days getting drunk at like 12, 13 years old. I took until I was like 16, which is the legal age in Germany, to start. So those kind of years were like just filled with video games instead.
And I feel that video games, you have lots of benefits from it.
Definitely.
Yes, perfect. And yours, we'll see after that. I feel that also you can learn a lot from video games today. I was at Zinc demo day. It wasn't really a demo day, it was more like a gathering.
Oh, the show and tells,
Yeah, the show and tells, exactly. And they were actually a startup that was focusing on video game, but creating some kind of professional curriculum, like having a set of games that shows some type of skills or can train you develop some type of skills. I find it quite interesting. I'm like, oh yeah, if I knew that when I was younger, you can put video games on your CV now. That would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see what comes out of Zinc right now. Like, they just finished their second cohort. Like, we'll talk about it afterwards as well. But actually, they're recruiting as well now. So they're recruiting for the third cohort right now. If anybody's interested as well in founding a business without having an idea, without having a team, but having 9 months in London to build one.
And I think the next cohort, it will be about the older generation, I think, trying to find a way to prolong the life or the also the
it's about
quality.
Improving life quality for elderly, and I think that's a really big one. I don't know, like, tech hasn't really broken into that market yet for several reasons, because elderlies might not be the early adopter type. They might not be the ones who should be exposed to the open internet because they're more susceptible to fraud and scams, etc. But ultimately, they're also the ones with the highest purchasing power. Like everybody in tech is targeting young people, versus the ones who actually have money would be older people, and also they have a lot of problems with loneliness, accessibility, which nobody is addressing right now.
Yes.
So there's definitely a huge market if you can track it.
Yeah, trying to address this kind of issues, and sometimes they're a bit too techy, so you're kind of thinking, well, is it really going to work? Because older people might not be that technical and ready to use that. So I think we definitely need to have more people trying to look at this.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm really excited about that one, and I'm also really excited about Mario Kart.
Yeah, me too. So
I
think I have the main controller. So let's see. 2 players, I guess.
Yeah. Go down.
Down together.
Oh no!
Wait,
that's boring. Yeah.
And I guess so. What should we do? Versus Grand Prix.
Let's go for Grand Prix. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
That's it. Let's go 100. 150 is a little bit intense because we probably can't.
Yeah, I'm a really newbie, really. So
do you want to go 50 instead?
I don't know.
We can do 150 and just see how it goes.
Okay, let's do that. So can you move around?
Yes.
Perfect. Yours is working. Mine is working. We're good. You never know with emulators.
All right. I used to have a combo, but I just forgot completely.
Does this really change anything? Like, does they really have a different way of driving?
I feel like it would. Like, I think if you take the small ones, if you take Baby Mario and Baby Luigi, like you'll be kicked out of the way easier. If you take the big ones, then it will.
Interesting.
You'll get you'll be slower, but you'll be able to kick ours out. But yeah, let's try.
So, which cup should we go for?
Let's start with the first one, just because gonna ease into it as well.
Good, perfect. I didn't even manage to play it too much while testing the games because I was fixing problem with the controls mainly, so I didn't have time to try it.
Yeah, but that's good. It's good because otherwise it would be unfair if you had an advantage.
Exactly. So I am.
Again, also it's really difficult for you to get new people onto the. No. It's really difficult for you to get new people onto the show if you beat them all with video games.
Right, exactly. So that's good. I'm not great, so that's perfect.
It makes them feel better.
Yeah. I think the first game I picked was actually a bit hard. It's hard also to evaluate how hard it could be to play together live while chatting at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I was always wondering like if it makes sense to interview while you play the game, but at the same time, like I don't know if I can right now.
Lots of people ask me about that, and I had so many people just telling me, "Oh yeah, you should just be playing all the time."
Yeah.
Sure, it's fun, but you can't really have a real discussion, talk about the start, and it's really hard.
Yeah, true.
I tried.
Oh wow, you're killing it. Damn.
Yeah, I think I'm doing okay actually.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely killing it. You're like, setting, managing expectations.
But I did play lots of video games. It just Mario Kart.
Oh, okay.
And it's also not really a hard game, right? It's a game you should be able to play while you're drinking and having fun with friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. For me, it's a drinking game. I don't know why, but shouldn't be, right?
Depends on what you associate with it. Like I never drank for Mario Kart. I don't know. New German drinking games are different.
I don't know. I never played without being in other parties. So I remember I used to live close by to a bar, a really nice bar in France that had regular tournaments of Mario Kart. It was so cool, like an entire pub just playing together and having a big competition on a huge screen.
Yeah,
Just love it.
that's great.
I don't like really see anyone around me. Like,
Yeah,
are we just the two of us?
I think we've took everybody over already.
Okay, that's because we decided to go for the easy.
For the easy one, yeah.
Okay.
But I also don't see you, so
Oh.
you seem to be like way far. No. All right. Next round. Good to get back in. I feel like now I have the controls back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also gave you the easy one, the Xbox controller. I got the Steam controller, which is slightly different.
Cool, thanks. Alright, let's see.
Okay, I got 10 points. Yeah.
Yeah. No, next one. Next course.
Of course. Let's do that.
This time.
It was kind of the way of getting in, right?
Yeah.
Now
No.
you can
Start
be more
easy,
safe,
and don't go too hard in the beginning.
Okay, so that beach. Right.
Let's see.
Yeah, I got the fast start.
Shit. Again.
I used to do that a lot. I had the first PlayStation, so I used to play Crash Bandicoot, like
Yeah.
the CTR version.
Yeah.
So yeah, always start. Yeah. That's a shame we don't have the sound,
Yeah.
because I feel that the sound is a big part of the game.
The sound is a big part of the experience. Yeah.
But if you do know the sound, you can sing it. But people can hear the sound. We can.
Oh really?
Yeah, just us.
Nice.
Just because if we do hear the sound, the mic would pick it up.
Interesting. It's one of the early mistakes. The early learnings.
Yeah, but in the same time, I've been thinking about a way to lower that.
No.
Well, the only solution would be to both be wearing headphones.
Oh.
Which is not great, right?
Which is
because
not-
we're on the
it's
couch
not-
together. It's
Yeah.
hard.
Not great for a podcast.
Yeah.
For a live stream. Yeah.
It works when you're in a big studio and it's serious and everything.
Shoot. Come.
Wow. Are you the number one?
Yeah. Finally made it.
Nice.
Should get back into gaming.
Yeah, you should.
I feel it would be good for my stress level.
It is actually, depending on what you're playing.
True. I mean, like the older I get, the more I move into shooters, etc.
Yeah.
That's definitely not good for your stress level.
Definitely not. I have so many games
Yes!
I have to play. You won! Wow! I'm far away. I'm just so far away here. What is the last game you've been
You got it.
playing?
The last game. I feel like it was Call of Duty. I was a really massive fan
Okay.
of that. Yeah. But that only started like once I was older, which was like 17, 18, 19.
Yeah,
That's
that's
probably
something
the
you
time.
play as a
Yeah.
kid, yeah.
Yeah. Not something you really get into. But it was more because it's also like quite relaxing. But it's not relaxing if you play against other people. That's something I learned the hard way.
Okay.
If you
What
play
do you
against
mean?
friends, if you play against other people, like you get very dead serious about it.
I think I was sometimes I'm surprised by the community when you're playing games where you actually interact with people. Like I was trying Dota. Okay, that's really hardcore game. It's not really friendly game.
Yeah.
But the community was like really aggressive. It's a game you can't really play if you're not online.
Yeah.
And
no,
people
true.
were like so mean. Like you're a beginner, you're playing with supposedly all the beginners.
Yeah, that's what I had. That's the same experience I had with Call of Duty as well.
And they're like insulting you, and you're like, chill out.
Yeah.
I'm just here to learn. It's my first time, you know. maybe
People
to
are
be
pretty
good at
savage
it.
online, yeah. I think that's one of the reasons why I never enjoyed playing online a lot. Like, actually, when Mario came out, like, I was one of the top people for Mario Kart Wii in Europe.
Oh, wow.
That was just
Oh,
because
really?
I was one of the first people to own the game.
Okay.
So there was like a short time period where I was the first one who actually in the score game. But yeah, I don't know. Like I don't really get competitive in like games like which don't have like a specific outcome at the end. If that makes sense. So like
a competition.
like for example like football, Mario Kart, any kind of gambling, for example. Like I don't really get competitive at all in those kind of places.
Okay.
Where I do get really competitive is when it gets more into like business or like long term, where like not one decision actually influences if you win or not. That's when I get very very competitive. Because ultimately, like in Mario Kart, it's like one move or two moves, and it's also like depending on like if the person trained before or not. versus in business it depends on like a lot of different things. Like not just like are you able to raise funds, it's also about are you able to hire a good team, find the right product, validate the
and
product,
you put the
marketing
foundation,
strategy.
but then it's about the everyday work. It's not just the one thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's so many different skills. It's such a complex thing that it takes years to actually determine whether somebody is successful or not. And even then, it depends like just on like how do you define success? Is it like the person who's worked up the most, or is it the person who's the richest? Because ultimately, yes.
Wow! Again, I'm really far away.
Oh wow! Oh,
this time I'm really far away.
This one wasn't your track.
No, I was like just bumping into everything this time.
Yeah.
I think the first one was just.
It's good. I appreciate it. You let me win.
No, really. First one was just luck. I got into everything and yeah.
Yeah. No,
I tried.
Yeah, but I think generally speaking, like winning in these kind of games is like very much defined by like whether or not you win the game in terms of points right now, which I'm totally winning. But
yeah, I see that. Like, yeah, I see. That's okay. That's fine.
No, you're still second. But I think winning in these kind of games is just largely defined by something arbitrary, like how many points you get, etc. Versus like in something like business, it really depends on like not only like are you making more money, but like the impact you make, for example, is a massive one.
Yes. And you define yourself. Like it's not.
Are
just
your employees happy with the place they're working?
Yes.
Because that is something which a lot of companies don't really understand. Is that creating a workplace where people want to work is actually like a goal in itself.
It is.
Like creating a workplace where people go to work and they really enjoy it is actually that's part of what you're supposed to do as a founder.
Yes. And then who do you measure that? Like, what metrics do you use?
Yeah, I mean like exactly. Like, how do you measure that? But like you can definitely tell that people don't enjoy it.
Yes, you can, and you can look at the turnover.
Which is quite easy to tell. Yeah.
Yes. But
and then
you also have people who come and you have more subtle things. So you have some metrics you can use for the big people that are very unhappy and something really bad happened or big changes or something. But I think on a day-to-day basis, it's really hard to make sure that it's actually true people are really happy or not. Like it's more the subtle things more than really on the big figures.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the employee happiness, but also like your personal happiness are things which are very difficult to measure, but like you can definitely tell when they're not there. Like a lot of founders are working themselves up. Like the guy who founded Revolut.
Yes.
He is still until today, like every day he's from 8 until 10 at night in the office. So 8 in the morning to 10 at night. And like a lot of founders think like that's what you have to do. And while I agree that there are times where you definitely have to work a lot, ultimately what that leads to if you don't balance it well is burnout. So maybe he's like, the kind of person who's really good at doing that and working that way, and that's something which, is admirable. But for you, I think it's really important to figure out how you work and also like...
Yeah, there is no one solution that works for everyone.
Yeah, and also like to not attach your own well-being and happiness to the outcome of the business. Like, I have friends who like literally, they got panic attacks and they got stressed from the pressure of founding to the point where they had like halos where like part of their vision was like compromised. Like they had such a big headache, for example, that like part of the vision wasn't there anymore.
Okay.
And they just say like that's part of the business. That's just part of like the journey as a founder that you sacrifice your health. And I think that's very, very dangerous because if the business for some reason, whether like something you can control or something you don't control, fails, you still have to live with it. Like you still have to live with your health. So it's definitely not worth sacrificing your health. To a large extent, over a larger period of time.
And there are many things you can control, but there are also many things you can't control. That's life, right? I've been in startups that some of them fail, or some of them work, but didn't work as expected for some reason. Sometimes. Really? Again.
Got through it. Number one. Woof. Sorry, you were saying.
No, you're definitely better than I am. Like, yeah, we can see the years of experience.
Everybody, this is like. The one thing my childhood really brought along was just advanced Mario Kart skills.
Yeah, wow.
But we're also playing on 50cc. I feel like if we were playing on 150, we'll both battle for the last place.
Really? You think so?
Probably.
I don't know. I have no idea what the difference is, really.
Yeah, but you were saying?
I was saying, I've worked with some startups and sometimes things happen like regulation, the markets, things change, and you actually change a lot of things in the market share distribution. Many things that can happen, and it's good to think about what you can do about it. But I feel that if you're too much into the day-to-day activity and you can't really see your business as it is, and it's hard. It's so hard. But just taking care of yourself is one first step, right?
Yeah.
And to think about you as an individual and not just you as a startup founder. Like you have people who have been founding lots of different startups, and it's not just because they're successful or they have a magic ingredient, but that's also because they focus on themselves, what they think, and at some point it's okay to also leave your startup, do something else, and it's about you as an individual. And I feel that when you work in a startup where the founder don't really take care of themselves and are just a bit low and like not really here and not here physically, but here in terms of his passion and everything, because they're just burned out. You really feel it as an employee. It's so bad.
Yeah, and it takes years to recover from that as a founder as well.
Yes,
like, I mean, like as a team member, you can definitely tell when it's happening, but as a founder as well, like it takes years to come back.
Yeah.
Let's give it another shot.
Definitely. You first, I'm second. That's okay. That's not too bad.
Yeah. No, it's not too bad. We should do a round of 150 afterwards just to like spice it up.
Yeah, definitely. Congratulations! Yay!
Alright, we got it.
Okay. We don't care about the name.
Yeah, we don't need to enter a name. It's fine.
Where do I just move something?
Maybe start? You have a start button. Yeah. Oh, is it me? Yeah,
no, that's you.
Oh.
Yeah, that's you. You won, so you're the one. Okay, so we shouldn't move the memory card. Great.
Yeah, nice. You won your first gold trophy.
Yeah.
And you got the green fire car as well.
Ooh. I didn't know you had it.
We're like seriously up-leveling your Mario Kart game.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's do a second cup.
Yeah. Let's do it against each other. Let's do 150. I feel like 150 just so we see the and then
150.
Worst case we round it off with like 100.
Sounds good. Yeah, that's going to be hard. But yeah. If it's not hard, it's not fun.
Yeah, let's do a weird combo.
And for everything.
Alright.
Have the cars or the different cars really change anything also? I don't know.
I feel like it might.
Yeah?
I feel like 13-year-old me would have the right answer.
Okay.
Let's go for
Flower? Star? Star is hard, I think.
I think star is really hard.
Okay, maybe we can go
Let's
for
do flowers. Yeah, because we're already doing 150. Like.
Yeah, it's already hard, so let's...
it's already quite difficult. Cool.
Let's try not to push a ball too hard.
Let's see. Okay.
So let's try to see the differences.
Yeah. Oh, the differences.
Wait, it's getting faster.
I'm number 7 now. That's the first difference. You have to probably like fight for it.
Yeah. There's a brilliant
Yeah, I think so. Ah, shit.
Okay, I think that's okay actually. I was expecting something too hard. Yeah. I was expecting maybe something too hard, but that's fine.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Well, I didn't manage to get any of the deep bonus point. Nothing. I got nothing.
You got nothing?
No.
Ah.
I just managed to just go before the 6. I don't know for you, but I have this bad habit. I just stay on the A button pressed. Like I never.
Is there another way of playing?
I don't know. Maybe a more controlled way. I feel like it's a bit more intense, right?
It's a lot more intense everything now. It's no more smooth riding, no more conversation while we're playing Mario Kart.
I feel it's a bit like when you're playing real horse car games, like a real horse game. It's really going fast. You need to be really pay attention.
Yeah, exactly. Oh shit. Oh, okay.
You made it.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
but
me
I ran
too.
immediately into a bus afterwards.
Okay. You missed 6.
Okay, we
How
can
many
definitely
people
tell
are
the
here?
difference.
Yeah, we
there's
can,
Like, there's
for
like
sure.
8, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not the last one.
Yeah, so we're probably this one is more of an uphill battle. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's good. We got this.
Yeah, we got this. It's okay. It's not too hard. It just we're not like, oh yeah, that's easy.
Like again, I mean, like some people get really fed up with it. Some people are like, if they're not winning, they get really like competitive. Like I was recently at the Europa's Awards. Like we were nominated as one of the hottest for good companies in the world, which was quite nice. We didn't win. Tech for Good is like one of those areas where it's really difficult to be mad at your competition. So if you start a business for good, you can't really be mad because like the winner at the Europa is like the person who won the award except for us. They help homeless people into jobs by upskilling them.
Yeah,
and it's really difficult to be like mad at them and go like, oh, look at these guys, like, oh, I wish they wouldn't have done so much good for the world. No, like the only thing you can do is try to produce even more good for the world. In Tech for Good, which is like the fun thing compared to like fintech, cybersecurity, where it's just about making money.
No, for sure. But you have been eliminated, so you got some exposure and some recognition, which is always great. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it's great. I mean, obviously there's some part in you which is like, oh, next year we have to go, we have to win. But it's you're playing a long game, and in a long game, like short-term wins are not as important.
Yeah, it's about the success of the company. So even if you don't watch for the work you do, if the company works.
Yeah.
But is it really important at the end? I mean, it helps when you're early stage to have recognition, to get some coverage.
Definitely.
But then, if the business works, I'm not sure if it changes anything.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing you notice as well is that a lot of companies which are only chasing PR, etc., and are like at all the conferences, they're just like riding the hype, but actually not participating in like, and actually not building like a great company. And that's something which is actually to be avoided because there are so many startup events and conferences, etc., that you need to be extremely protective of your brand.
Yeah, it's like an individual role too without speaking everywhere. That's people who might not sometimes have the time to do anything else. And you can see some people who are just speaking everywhere, but when do they actually get the things done, right? So for some of them, that's their job to speak at conferences and once a day. But sometimes you feel that it's a bit too much about chasing fame and awards and when you look at how awards work, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Wow.
Yeah. No, this is bad.
You already won.
Like, I feel like the robots are like very much focused on the game. They're not like chatting about awards and stuff. They're like, we have to win this. Yeah. No, but it's true. I mean, conferences for a lot of people are just. I mean, some people really milk conferences. Like some people can really gain a lot out of them.
Yeah.
But a lot of others, they basically just see conferences as like a good way to get a break from work and just chill out.
No, they're great for sure. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily. It's not because people are ask you to speak to their events all the time, or because you give lots of talk. That doesn't mean that other people who don't are not doing a great job either. Like
yeah, definitely. I mean, like the one thing you see, which I do have to say about the founder of Revolut, which is really admirable, is that there are a lot of events like CCAM puts on, and also like other companies like the London Business Awards, etc. Where they are also invited, but the guy just never shows up. And like partially it's because he now is a unicorn founder, he has like a shit ton to do, but also like because he works so hard, he's like very protective of his time.
I see, yeah.
And that's something
it's hard as a founder, even attending events, just not just speaking, but also attending. I feel that lots of early stage founders, because there are so many events taking place in London.
Yeah.
Many of them just tell me, well, I don't just have the time to go to all these events.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I like that you call it secret passage. I felt like it's like more like
no, it's
you got dropped up by accident into a hole.
Okay.
Because I did the same.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I was thinking first that it was a bad thing, and then it looks good. So I'm thinking, well, maybe it's secret.
Yeah, maybe. It's the right mindset.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is just a secret passage. It's just a
Maybe
hidden
because
way
even faster.
nobody else found so far. Yeah. No, I think it's. Well, I'm doing the hidden passage again.
Good.
I think it's an interesting one as well. That a lot of people when they don't yet run a business, they don't think that their time is valuable, and they carry that mindset back into their work once they actually have a lot going on. So they still spend a lot of time watching on Netflix, wasting it, just be like with silly events which you don't have to attend just because they're too nice. So I think it's a really good habit actually to get into in the beginning already, that you just say like my time is valuable, because ultimately like that will be true the older you get as well. Like if you talk to old people, they value time very highly. Yeah. Like the closer you get to dying at some point, which is a dark topic, but the closer you get to that moment in your life, the more you will start valuing your time, the more you would pay for your time. Like in the beginning of your career, people just don't value it at all. They go like, why would somebody pay me for my time? My time's not worth anything. But
and then you're kind of
the wrong mindset.
Yeah.
Oh, I just got overtaken.
Wow.
I just got overtaken on the line. No.
I'm still really far away. Like I don't know where I am. Oh shit! I was looking at your screen. Oh no, I got stuck.
Oh no, you got stuck. Oh no,
that's ridiculous.
That's the worst.
So bad.
I feel like they should have figured out how to not get people stuck. Just like smoothing the corners and stuff. Like as soon as you get stuck.
For the beginners like me, that's so bad. Just want to say hi to Yuki O's, Ellie Fireduck. And thanks for your follow, Ellie Fireduck. You're watching us from Twitch, so thanks for your follow on Twitch. And great to have you here.
Hi guys.
Okay, so I think there is just one course left, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we can get back to the interview. Otherwise, we can play for hours.
I mean, like I'm in it right now. I feel like now that the robots are winning, like I'm not giving it up.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well,
it's probably best. Otherwise, my competitive streak comes back. So.
Yeah. Plus, today is a lovely day outside, so
that's true as well. Yeah.
It's so tempting sometimes to spend some time with afternoon. I do that so much. I shouldn't. Especially when I want to finish a game.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have the time to be into a game for too long when you're working. So if you don't finish the game in a timely manner, it doesn't.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. I think like one of the reasons why I was so hooked on games for a long time was because like I was very easily addicted to a game.
Yeah.
And it's also something which my dad actually like has as well. Like every time I brought home a new game, like especially strategy games, he loved those, like Age of Empires, Rome Total War, etc. Every time I brought home one of those, he would like immediately get hooked on it as well, to the point where he actually like had to like tell me that I should stop showing him my games. I can still play them, but I can't show them to him anymore because then all of a sudden Christmas holidays are all gone.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and especially like then there were these online games, like online strategy games, which my dad started playing as well, and I was like kind of bad at it, but he got really good at it to a point where he dominated an entire server.
Wow.
Yeah, and he got like too hooked in it, so he had to like quit everything. I think if you notice that kind of streak in yourself, like probably the best way to handle it is that rather than like going like reducing your input with video games or something, is probably just to like leave it for a while and then come back.
Yes. I love what I do. I try to pick a game, stay on this game. I know I will be quite intense on it for a while, and then once it's done, when I finish it, then I can just take a break, not play video games. I try not to start another one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like just not playing games which are endless, because you'll never finish them. You just go like, oh yeah, this level, and then you're hooked.
And you can't even go to bed, like you stay until you're not.
Yeah, definitely. But
I do have some horror games to play soon, so I'm like
horror game.
Yeah, I do have a few that are a bit like not horror, but a bit stressing.
Is it Resident Evil?
No, I do have the Alien Isolation to play. I want to play it for such a long time, and I'm just like, I know if I start, I can't really play at night. Too late. Wow.
Oh no, so bad this round. Wait, you can't play the horror game too late at night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or if I am alone or something, so...
Yeah, the setup has to be right.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't really work out. I don't know when to start playing the game.
Yeah, no, I get that, yeah.
Okay, I was so bad at it. Like, it's so bad. Hi, Eddie. Good to see you here today. How are you? Yeah, the game is great. You have to catch up on the stream. You missed the first half, but that's okay. You were just on time for the last half. For that
now is the actual interesting part starting.
Yeah.
We're just on time.
So let's see. I think I did a really bad job here.
Oh wow, yeah. I mean, we can maybe play another round later just to
Sure, yeah, why not? But
just to fix that wrong or right or wrong.
Yeah, let's just get back to the interview maybe now. I'm just going to remove the game. Let me. Up. Okay, so we don't have the sound.
Mm-hmm.
And we're back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was fun. I'm glad you suggested the game, otherwise I wouldn't have put the emulator on and
Yeah, no, thanks for making it happen. I mean, like, it's great. I mean, like, it's just the right amount of, like, engaging and not too much engaging that you can't talk anymore about it.
Yeah.
Which is why it's a perfect party game as well.
Exactly, yeah, that's the point of party games. And that's why it's good to play party games, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you can be in, but at the same time it's okay. And you don't have to be the best. Prove I was quite bad. And that's okay. So, we talked about many things already, and I think we got a good sense of what you're doing, Tick.Done, the story and everything. So we mentioned several times Zinc, and I would love to get back to the program itself, what it was like to be in the program. So Zinc is, I will certainly summarize it really poorly, but for me it's like a company builder program where people join as individuals, and the idea is to build together a company that has also social impact, but also a for-profit company potentially. I think they also have some people who build a non-profit, but mainly it's for-profit. And all the startups have the objective to build a social impact startup. And I guess there is kind of a process within the program to go to the next step and get the startup ready, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not an official spokesperson for Zinc either, so I don't have the perfect definition here right now as well, but I've definitely went through the program, and I think that's actually almost more valuable because
it is.
You know, I can just share firsthand like what it was like for me. But basically, Zinc is an incubator program, and now that differs from an accelerator program because an accelerator program takes teams with ideas and then just like tweaks a little bit, gives them some money, makes an introduction, and then they go off. That's like the idea behind it. Ideal scenario for an accelerator is that. Incubator programs go a step further because in real life it's really difficult to actually take a career break where you then bootstrap, like pay off your own savings to found a company. It's really difficult to find a diverse co-founding team because, as I said, like my co-founders Cedric and Jess, they're vastly different. Like not only in age, but we're all from different countries as well. We all have extremely different backgrounds as well, and we all have extremely different experiences which we can bring to the table and skills as well. And that's really difficult because I actually founded a business before this in an accelerator program. And in that accelerator program, we were 5 friends who met through university. And first of all, 5 is like a horrible number. Like it's way too many co-founders. And second of all, like if you're 5 friends, chances are that you met through university, which means that you all have similar skills. Now we still had like 2 engineers, 1 designer, and 2 business people, but that was first of all too many people. And second of all, we just knew each other too well. We were like too similar in the way we approach problems, too similar in the way we
it's hard to build a
approach
business
difficult
with
situations.
also.
It's very difficult because like ultimately one thing you need to do is like separate business from your emotions and also your private life. Because with a friend you might be very, very scared to actually like approach them head on and just say like, I think what you're doing is not right. Because you don't want to offend their feelings, because you don't want to like you know, jeopardize your friendship. But in business, that's exactly what you have to do. Like, there's no emotions in business. Like, if you like an employee, if you like a co-founder, but they're doing something wrong, and there's actually a chance that you, for example, have to let go, you
have to do it.
You need to confront that head on. Like, you can't be scared. You can't be sad. You can't feel regret. It's just about like doing the right thing for the business.
So you can just let it go and be like, well, we will see in the future. It's also your business.
Yeah, definitely. So that's the big difference between an accelerator and an incubator, because accelerators take fully formed teams and companies and help them build out what they already have, versus incubators actually take people who want to found a business and don't yet have the right co-founding team, the idea, or just the tools and the mind space and financial support to actually do so, and help them for like a 9-month program to come up with a co-founding team, a problem they want to solve, an idea, and help them to raise funding as well, while they also support them financially as well. And that was fantastic. And there has been a really successful program here in London already, which is called Entrepreneur First, which has been doing that for deep tech. And Zinc's insight was basically that we can tackle some of the biggest social problems the world is facing through technology companies. There are a lot of issues, like for example loneliness now for elderly people, which the government is addressing by appointing a loneliness minister. But that's not going to help anybody. Yeah, there's a loneliness minister now. And that's not going to help anybody. Like, the government is not the right institution to innovate in these kind of spaces. What they should do, and what they're actually doing here in the UK as well, is they support startups like ours, but also like incubators like Zinc, in their mission to actually like solve these issues, because tech has a way more iterative and way more scalable approach to solving these problems than any government institution can have. And the cool thing about Zinc is basically that they're not only like trying to tackle one of the biggest, like some of the biggest social problems, they're also founded by people who actually have like the credibility in the space to do so. So the founders of Zinc, they come from Bethnal Green Ventures, which has already been a social impact fund here in London, Local Globe, which is the #1 fund for early stage startups in Europe, as well as like the LSE is involved as well in order to provide research as well. And this kind of like multi-pronged approach to tackling social issues is actually what attracted me in the beginning to Zinc as well.
So what was your mindset when you joined? Did you already have some ideas on what you wanted to build? Were you inspired by the topic of the cohort, or just did the idea come with meeting with Cedric, or was it something different? Like, what was your mindset when you joined the program?
So at the time I was in Amsterdam and I was still working on my first company, but we were building something in the advertising space, which was not really the space I wanted to be in. That was the first thing. Second of all, we had structural issues. So because we had such a big co-founding team, for example, it was very difficult to actually turn that around. So basically we decided that after the accelerator we wanted to spin that company out and then start something new. So I was looking for a restart at the time already, which is why Zinc was just a perfect opportunity for me, which I jumped on at that time as well, because I was looking for a restart. I wanted to build something which was social impact, but I didn't have a team, I didn't have an idea, and I also, quite frankly, didn't have any money. Like, I was still pretty young. I just kind of like graduated out of college, like had a year like of work, etc., but not enough money to like go off and just like move to London by myself and start something. And I think there's a couple of things which were really helpful for this kind of like setup which Zinc has, but like the most interesting for me at the time was the social impact and the support they would provide you with. It was really funny because we were the first cohort of Zinc. They're now recruiting for their third cohort. So if you're interested, you should definitely check out their website.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the description of the video.
Yeah, but we were the very first cohort, and they were also in the startup itself, so they had a very scrappy approach. So basically how I found out about it was just through a conference I went to before. In the conference after group, somebody shared a link to their website, and their website was just like a grey website with like Zinc written on it, then like a little bit of an explainer like, we do social good, apply here, and that was it. It was not clear how much money you would get paid. I had no idea who the people were who founded it, because at the time, like, I wasn't too much involved in the scene outside of the Netherlands, and it wasn't exactly clear how the program would go down, who would apply, etc. So my parents, my friends, my colleagues, everybody thought it was a scam. Everyone felt like you should definitely not move to London. Like that sounds like a horrible idea.
Well, it's London. What can happen? It could be worse.
Well, yeah, but I mean, on the other hand, like it just sounded like a very dubious enterprise because it was also not clear how much equity they would take at the time.
Okay.
Now it's obviously clear, like, to take 8% out of the company, which is fair considering the amount of effort they put in and also like the risk they take by taking founders on who are not part of the cohort yet, not yet fully equipped with an idea in the team. But at the time it was not clear. Like it was definitely not clear. And one of the things which was really funny was that I actually like flew over to London for an interview at Zinc.
Okay.
And I stayed like in a very shady hostel, like which was actually close to Edgware Road as well. And the interview was at LBS, at the London Business School at the time, because they were also like having this scrappy approach. Yeah, like close to Regent's Park. And I had no idea as well, so I was like, this is getting sketchier and sketchier. Like they don't even have an office. They didn't until now. I never knew what actually happened, etc. But I just noticed immediately that the people who applied were extremely sharp. Like just the people who else were in this room, and the people who interviewed me were like extremely sharp. Okay. So there was something going on. Like you could tell that there was something interesting happening here, and also like through that interview and conversation, I actually learned more about like what the framework would be, and it seemed like very legit. And yeah, like 2-3 days after I interviewed with Zinc, I actually got the offer to move to London, and that was a no-brainer. It was just immediately move to London for this. Now what happened then was that in October 1st, 2017 was when the cohort started, and we were in a room with 50 individuals, and a lot of them already exited like $50 million businesses, $100 million businesses. Okay. There were some of Europe's best investors there to speak with us that day, and we had like a 2-week boot camp where they like froze 6 experts, like the founders of Skype, the founders of TransferWise, multiple like experts in the field of mental health, which was one of the subjects we were like was the subject of the first cohort, but also like company builders like EF, the founder of EF was there as well, and all these people were thrown at you in the first 2 weeks, combined with a cohort of people who were like extraordinary individuals, like PhDs in Oxford, etc. And that was the first time I really felt like I was the stupidest person in the room.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, like they always say that you should find, like if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yes.
What they don't say is that if you're the stupidest person in the room, it feels really, really bad.
But you made it.
Yeah.
I mean,
no,
it
so
turned out really well.
I mean, like it's really interesting because by exposing yourself to a ton of like successful founders who were the mentors of the program, but also the people who were part of the cohort, you grow up very fast. Like you learn what you need to learn very, very fast. Like they always say, like you're the average of the 10 people you surround yourself with, and if you surround yourself with like more than 100 people who are world class, you will become world class quite fast as well. And I think that was one of the main lessons as well, which I learned from moving to London, is that in a hub like London, there are a lot of like very successful individuals, very ambitious people, and that will make you more ambitious and more successful as well, just by osmosis, just like by surrounding yourself with these good people. Like what you're doing with the podcast, like hanging out with entrepreneurs will ultimately get you exposed to this group, but also like associate you with them, and you will become also more successful through that.
And you're learning so much just having a discussion with anyone. Like, really
absolutely.
Your horizon to lots of new things and to lots of insight.
Yeah.
Just to mention last one thing about the program itself. What do you think was the most valuable part of it? Was it the mentors, having access to all the mentors, or was it anything that was super helpful to have being part of this cohort? Yeah,
I think the most valuable aspect of the program, like it's very hard to say because like there's like this perfect storm of like a lot of people, no pressure financially because you have 9 months time, and mentors,
which is still long. 9 months for a program. I mean, if you look at all the programs in London, you have also lots of shorter programs.
But 9 months is like, it's very difficult to find a co-founder, an idea, and raise funding in less than 9 months. Like it's very difficult. Like it is possible, especially if you're a second-time founder. You have like advantages which first-time founders don't have, but it's very difficult to go through that process because there are so many iterations which have to be done. I think the most valuable, I would say, is just space of mind, which the program provides you with. So basically, in real life, it's very difficult to, next to your job, next to everything you do, find an idea and a team and then convince that co-founder to drop out. And that's very, very difficult because co-founders have a lot going on. Like, if you want to work with world-class people, chances are that they have a gig going on. Being in a room with all these, like, world-class people and nobody has anything else to do than just, like, spitball ideas until, like, one of them sticks is an incredible environment, because you start thinking of, like, the most ridiculous ideas and the most crazy ones, and those ones will actually be the ones which actually work out as well. Then that, paired with, obviously, mentors, etc., is just going to be... The success is going to be, like, quite... certain if you like follow like this iterative approach rather than like getting stuck into something too fast.
I see. You know, that's funny because I've actually came across your co-founders. Well, I don't know Jessica personally, but I used to be I used to be in the VIR space, so I knew about Blipar for years. But I've met Cedric. We had a chat over the phone long time ago. I think he was telling me about Zinc and asking me to come to the mentor thing or just to meet the startups, and I found that fascinating. I didn't manage to find the time because it was on Friday, and back then I was working on Friday morning, so I couldn't really I had meetings on Fridays, so couldn't come along. But I found the entire program very fascinating, and I was glad to manage to come the other day. And I tried to be involved in the next cohort because just the program itself and the support it provides, I feel that, I don't know for you, but finding a co-founder, I feel that it's a pain point for many people here. I don't know about other cities, but in London, that's something that I came across a lot. And having some kind of structure, I think it's quite helpful for lots of people if you know exactly what to expect.
I mean, you have to be very lucky as well. Like, I don't think that many people in the cohort would have been a good co-founding match with me personally, apart from Cedric and Jessica. Yeah. And that's just the truth, because finding a co-founder is such a difficult endeavor, because you have to not only match like skills wise, like be complementary to each other, you also have to be like similar in terms of personality. You have to be obsessed with the same problem area and the same mission statement for your company. You have to have similar work ethics in order to make it work as well, because otherwise it gets frustrating. Yeah. And you have to also be sure that you can spend like the next 5 to 10 years with this person. So there's a lot of pressure on that as well. And the most important is also like, you don't want to get somebody on as a co-founder who you think you could hire at some point. Co-founders have to be so special that the only way of getting them on is actually a co-founder. And that's something which a lot of founders do wrong, especially like ones like, you know, we did where we have like 5 people. The question is like, are we being too nice? Yeah. Are some of those people actually first employees? Are some of those people actually people which might come in later at a stage and like be more helpful at that point? Or are they really like co-founders you want to like work with, and who are under no circumstance being incentivized to be a co-founder, except for if you give them a ton of equity and make them part owner of the entire business?
I feel it's a hard question, especially if you already have been building something out of nothing on your own, like founders who already have been working on the idea and are looking for people to join them on the idea. I feel that this kind of questions are really tricky, because you have some people who want to be involved, but are they really your co-founders? They want co-founders because to raise money you can't just be on your own, you need to have a team and to have co-founders, but in the same time, are they really the right co-founders? I've been meeting so many entrepreneurs struggling on this part, like especially non-technical founders looking for a technical co-founder, but I'm always wondering how much input do you want this person to have? Like, the right person can't just be found on an ad, you can't just post an ad about your idea. So it's a hard thing.
I think that's the value of the program, really. Like, I think that's the value, because ultimately I ended up working with 6 different teams. Like, I was not immediately with Cedric and Jessica. Like, what happened was that I was iterating for different teams and working with different people, and we were pretty quick to kill all those groups as well if they didn't work. So there were some people where you start working with on a Tuesday morning, and on a Tuesday evening you're not on the same team anymore. Because you just have to be very honest to yourself, like, is this working or not? And that's why it's so great if you have 50 people you can try working with, because a lot of that will be based on iterations. I think the most important though with a co-founder is that the question, can you get stuff done together, is really important. And that's not just about like, can you produce results? Because results, like, you can have focus on vanity metrics, like, did we get a lot of views or something like that? Like, results are like, they have to be like super tangible and measurable, and you have to enjoy it while you were working together on that. And I think that's a really big Like, if you follow those two criteria, you'll probably be on the right path. Like,
Yeah.
there's no guarantee that it will work out, but did you enjoy working with this person, and can you produce results together is extremely, extremely important for a long-term successful founder relationship. The other thing is just trust. I think is a very important one as well, because if I think back about it, like working together with Jessica and Cedric out of like ad hoc without Zinc would have been almost impossible, because it's unlikely that I would have met the two. Jessica would have been speaking at events, which I would have potentially participated in. Maybe I could have like grabbed her after an event and just said like, I have this really cool idea, you should hear me out, and then try to do it.
Many other
There is hypothetically it could have worked. In reality, it probably doesn't work just because there was no trust. One of the best parts of Zinc was that when I started in the cohort, I didn't necessarily know yet a lot about all the other cohort members, and because I was younger than them, not everybody immediately wanted to jump on to work with like the young person. Like everybody immediately wanted to work with somebody who like had a track record.
Yeah,
it makes sense. Like you probably
does, yes.
look at past experience and track record in order to validate what in the future is going to happen. That's actually a very bad predictor, though.
It is, but I think it's not just about experience, it's also how serious this person is. Like if you look at someone who is just who just graduated, potentially you might think, well, they have some time to kill and they're not sure what they want to do next, if they want to take a job or if they want to start their own thing. So I think that's the kind of thing that can also happen, apart from judging on the experience and the value to the team, but also are they serious to really be here for the next step after the program.
Definitely. I mean, that's a really big one, and I think actually like something which we learned during the Zinc journey as well is that's a big thing as well, because as a young person you have less to lose, which means that you're more willing to take risks, and a program like this requires risks. It requires you to, for potentially after the program, go without a salary for a while, work from a cafe in order to make it happen, versus other people with families and also have like a ton of opportunities with like 6-figure jobs waiting for them if they want to. They're way faster to drop an idea. So that's like one advantage. But the other thing is just, it really depends on the person. Like some successful founders are extremely successful and they can repeat that success, versus others, they might have been successful once, but now they have like a sense of entitlement, like I deserve that this company is funded. And then they're frustrated when it doesn't happen, and then they just switch because they go like, well, probably it's the idea, it's not me. And I think one of the big things which I learned during Zinc is that if you are so good that people can't ignore you, they will pick you up. Because if somebody is looking for a co-founder, they're looking for the best co-founder. And if you're so good that people can't ignore you as a co-founder, even though they initially had like prejudice and initially didn't want to work with you, they will come to you. They will want to be working with you. If you are looking for funds and you are so good in terms of traction, in terms of like the excitement you build, the brand you build, investors want to invest in you. Investors have a lot of pressure to invest money, so they will want to come to you and invest. It's not like you have to beg them. And the same ultimately, like the way we got in touch with Google to work together on like this story format for web was also based on that. It was because we launched and we got so many views on stories in the first day that they actually reached out to us.
Oh wow, that's great.
Yeah, and that's one of the rules I learned, is just that if you're so good people can't ignore you, you will find success after a while.
That's
a
mic
drop moment.
Like, yes. No, really, I really like your approach and what you're doing. We are running a bit out of time. If anyone has any question, hi. Umindu 8, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, I'm sorry. But hi everyone, if you have any interesting question and instead of criticism, just weird champ, I see you. Feel free to ask it right now. I just have one last question for you. So Zinc is about also having social impact, and that's something that is really important to you. And you mentioned having people coming to you and also reaching out to investors. Do you feel that you had to explain a lot the social impact versus the business? Do you think that it was hard for you to be like a social impact company going out of a social impact program and still trying to stand as a for-profit viable startup? Yeah,
so I think the first thing to understand is that social impact by itself is not very sustainable. Like charities, for example, NGOs, they're not very successful. So I think because they depend too much on donations. So they don't have a scalable business model.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a startup.
So
it's not made to be $1 million, $1 billion startup.
I think that's an important thing, and I think that's something which a lot of people who want to have like a social impact need to understand, is that there still needs to be a business behind it as well.
Yeah.
The second thing is that not enough investors yet put a premium on social impact. A lot of investors, they evaluate social impact ideas the same way they evaluate like a fintech startup, a cybersecurity startup necessarily. And that means that as a social impact startup, you have to combine the impact you're making in the world with the monetary incentive for people to like invest in this company.
Yeah, you still have to have a great startup business model and a startup model. Yeah,
exactly. So it's definitely harder. That being said, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And I think the future is moving towards that. Like we see a lot of successful angel investors, a lot of successful VCs talking about problems such as climate change, lack of education, automation, globalization, loss of jobs. All these issues are hot topics right now in entrepreneurship, and they're hot topics in VC. And all these VCs are talking about it, which means that it's only a matter of time until VCs actually pick this up and say, we need to invest more in companies which are actually addressing social issues and not just trying to make money for ourselves. Right now, the incentive structure is not there yet. A lot of VCs have limited partners who put money into their fund and expect return. But a lot of limited partners, especially like individuals, wealthy individuals, are starting to be more concerned about like the outcome of the world as a whole, rather than monetary outcome for themselves.
Yeah, I feel it also comes more and more to have entrepreneurs that want to tackle a big challenge, but in the same time that are business driven. The other day I had the founders of a biotech startup, very promising startup. They also do tackle a big social challenge, but in the same time it's a business, and it's a great business. And I think we were talking about the fact that people have to stand up on this, and in terms of investment, I think it's not about people trying to think about having less revenue, but it's just about thinking, well, why not combine both of them? There are now some funds, more and more funds that are specialized in social impact, but I feel that there is still a step to have more usual funds investing also in social impact. Like it shouldn't be, oh, you're doing social impact, so it's not for us. Right?
I think
it should be more.
It will take like a few years' time, but in a few years' time, it won't be called social entrepreneurship anymore. It will just be entrepreneurship. So it will be one of the base questions will be like, not just what problem are you solving for like a niche industry, which is gonna make a process more efficient, but that's it. Yeah. It's gonna be always tied to how is this gonna make this place better for everybody.
I agree, and I think it's coming more and more, and I see more and more very interesting startups tackling bigger challenges, which is fantastic to see, and I wish you the best, and I wish them the best too. So I think we are kind of running out of time. It's already quite late, and is there anything else you wish I asked you about, or any resources you'd like to share that could be useful to you or to anyone? Yeah,
so I think one of the books I read early in the journey, which is like which was transformative for me as a founder, and just like for anybody who's thinking about starting a business, is a book called The Mom Test by Robert Fitzpatrick. It's very small. It's like just a couple, like I think it's just 100 pages. It's like tiny. You can read it in like one afternoon, but it can have a very, very transformative impact on your business, because what you'll find is that a lot of people will want your idea, but they will also lie to you, which means that they don't lie to you because they want something bad for you. They just don't want to hurt your feelings. They see that you're so excited, you're like this excited founder, and in that moment they also overestimate how much they actually want this product. So they will go like, we need this product is going to change our lives, you should build it, and you go out and build it, raise funds, etc., and then you come back and people are like, we're not sure. Exactly. And that's something which can easily be avoided if you read this book and use the approach in the book. And the second thing is just that the most important skills also which come out of this book, which a founder needs to exhibit, is ambition and passion, which keeps them going, which rallies everybody behind this problem, and clarity. I think clarity is something which a lot of people overlook in the startup space, because they're so busy building a product, etc.
It's hard to have clarity. Yeah. How do you measure that? How do you show that? It's very difficult to ensure clarity and focus, but ultimately, startups, they don't starve, they drown. Yeah.
And what that means is that every startup will not face the problem of not having a problem to solve. They will never run out of ideas. The problem is just that they will be pulled in so many different directions with so many different opportunities and ideas that ultimately they fail building their company, they fail solving a meaningful problem, and they fail attracting any users because they're like chased from one area to the other area to one area to the other area until they haven't moved from the spot and are just completely exhausted.
That's a big risk indeed.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I love those resources. I'll make sure to add them on the link of the
definitely.
description of the video. So as I said before, the video of this interview will be available on YouTube in the coming days. Thank you very much for joining me today. Really had a great time.
No problem, really enjoyed it,
Yeah. So where can we find you on social media? Maybe some upcoming events?
So
anywhere?
my most active platform is LinkedIn.
Okay.
That's where I'm most active, post a lot.
Yeah.
I'm easiest to reach actually on Twitter.
Okay.
So if you just send me a message, tweet at me, it's the easiest way to do. In terms of upcoming stuff, like I'm finishing up my first book, which I'm very excited about, which is basically after I gave a TED talk on marketing.
Yes.
It got more than 180,000 views on YouTube, and I got a lot of inbound requests for more explanation on what that actually meant. So I'm actually publishing my first book on Amazon soon.
Nice, let me
So you
know
can
when
check
it's
it out there as well, yeah.
I'll definitely put the word out there.
Yeah, definitely. And the easiest way to keep up to date with it is just on Twitter as well.
Great.
And otherwise, if you haven't checked out the app, definitely either go to Tick.co or search for Tick.Done in the iOS store and let us know what you think.
Yeah, well, I'll put everything into links and on social media and everywhere to make sure everyone can find you easily. Just want to say thank you to everyone. On my end, I am especially active on Twitter, so that's where I post every news about the podcast. So keep an eye there because I will soon be uploading the video on YouTube and will promote it on Twitter. I will share some highlights video and I will also announce our next guest. So keep an eye on social media. If you have any questions, suggestion for guests, but also games, feel free to reach out. And I wish you all a fantastic weekend. The weather is really nice. Well, it was when we started. I don't know right now. But the weekend sounds really lovely today. So enjoy the weekend, enjoy the day, and I hope to see you very soon. Thank you, everyone.
Have a great Saturday.